Religion and Children is likely going to be the title of this. So I was on Facebook, and jokingly, somebody had made a post, which I don't have a screenshot of, which is not as important. I had jokingly brought up, I've been wondering whether or not, if I ever have kids, if I want to introduce the Bible to them. So on the surface, I would have been like, hell no, and here's a list of reasons of why. So those of you who have been watching my channel know that I'm an ex-Christian, so I've got a long list. But I've thought about this for some time, and the facts are is that there are still lots of people who believe in it, and eventually my kids will be introduced to the system one way or the other. So I forgot that I had more on there, but yeah, if I can keep it away, that's great, but I don't think that I can. So I made a joke about, if I can't keep it away, to read scary stories when my kids wanted scary stories to be read to them at night, to read it the post had to do with illustrations from the Bible, and like how not everything should be illustrated. And I said I disagree. I think there'd be less people that would follow it if the whole book was illustrated. So like it was all in fun, and I was just making a joke saying like, yeah, I think if I read some of these stories and I didn't say what book it was from, it would be equally as scary. And the person that made the post understood what I was referring to. So that was all good. However, here's where things got interesting. It's like, okay, you can tell this person was just like, yeah, the Abrahamic God is pretty terrifying, especially in the Old Testament. So here's where this really begins, is why would you bother if you had kids? You realize you want them to grow on their own minds and thoughts and not shackled by these out-of-date faiths. Morality does not need religion. Okay, so on the surface, I'm like, I agree with that. Like, on the fact that morality doesn't need the Bible for sure, but I think that there are logical ways to have understanding of things. Fair enough. But the problem I had is that I'm being put in a weird light, like I'm defending teaching the Bible, when that's not what I was saying. And I was also just making light of this deal. This person's like being uber serious. So I went from joking to serious with them. I said the reason why anybody would want to educate their children about religion is because even if you don't believe in the surrounding belief systems or hold one yourself, others do. While I encourage children to learn for themselves, I also accept the fact that children are going to be indoctrinated by other parents in schools that they go to, including teachers that work there. I continue to say I would rather them to at least be aware surrounding religions. That way they won't fall into it. So here, the person that made the post chimed in and said, I don't think I'd tell my kids anything about religious until they asked about it. I'd say the Bible is a book of astrotheology and something stories, I don't pronounce it, allegorical. Then I'd probably tell them about and make it clear to believe whatever they want to choose. Which is fine, but this person continues as a very narrow point of view to me. So me trying to encourage my children to at a decent age, not just like 5 or 6, but like at the age of maturity, to know the difference and like to be aware that there are other religions. So he said that's a very narrow point of view. You teach them all. You tell them different religions and have different cultures and faith. Why start with the Bible, for fuck's sake? Why not 2 other belief systems? You teach them to think for themselves first before anything else. People forget that their faith should be for their children's. So again, this person's going on acting like I'm trying to read the Bible to them in a sense, like trying to encourage them, like, okay, be like Jesus. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm the opposite of that. And like, instead of trying to be indoctrinated, be like the, Bible, what I'd be doing is telling them, hey, this religion exists, and, be aware of this religion. So, I continued to answer, you seem to have things twisted. Who said I was using the Bible to teach morality? So, I was partially responding with the thing he said earlier as well. Because I'm not trying to say get your morality from the Bible. I don't know how I got pinned in that direction. So as I continued, I said, and I wouldn't teach the other ones that you mentioned because there are cultures that their children are likely to run into. Your logic makes no sense. Teaching children to be aware of other religions is not the same thing as teaching children to learn morality from religion. So, yeah, he's saying that I'm trying to teach morality from the Bible, and I'm like, no, I'm simply saying, hey, these religions exist around you, and you need to be aware of them. So, and I got a little snotty with this. I said, oh my God, what an idiot, because he's missing the point. And sometimes I think people miss points on purpose. And he said, you did, just reread what you put. Yeah, he's being dumb. Open your mind. You need to teach them about other cultures. You have completely lost the point of carrying on arguing this. Yeah, he doesn't understand the idea of making them aware of dangers. So, here's the last thing I told him is, dumbass, how do you expect people to not follow something if you don't tell them what it is they're supposed to avoid? Your logic is, if you don't tell people about the cliff, they won't walk off of it. Claps. Well done. So, you're not really as smart as you think you are. You should check your logic. You make no sense. Yeah. So, that's part one. I wanted to share where this video was inspired from, oddly enough. So, here's where the actual video will begin as far as my thoughts on this. When is it appropriate to when is the appropriate time to bring up religion to children? So, obviously Christians and many other strict belief systems encourage beliefs in religion early, encouraging structure along with some misinterpretations of reality. Doing this early can increase the odds of children growing into adults that continue to follow in that idea. Of course, this is not guaranteed. It's just encourages the odds. However, no religions and otherwise more relaxed religions, atheism is simply believing in what is already scientifically proven, while Wicca and pagan beliefs don't push or pressure their children into the beliefs. So yes, there is a difference between the two. A, not teaching your kids anything spiritual, and B, teaching them only when at a certain age with maturity, if they still want to know or show interest. Personally, I would lean into teaching reason and science first, and then in their youth and late years, if they still are interested in your belief system and are curious, then that's fine. So they're like 15, 16 years old, they're mature enough, if they're curious about what your belief system is, that's fine. You can tell them your practice. However, here's where the problem lies, is that, like it or not, one way or the other, at least if you live in the United States, if your kids go to a public school, they're going to hear about religion, and like from either teachers or other kids that are indoctrinated or going to church. I have in here parentheses with Jesus or something. So, what are you going to do about it? A, don't tell them anything that others So I'm trying to read my hand while I was writing this quickly. Don't tell them anything. Let others indoctrinate them and share their beliefs first. And then B, tell them about religion, but not to believe in a system, but rather what it is, like what belief systems are around and what belief systems stand for. So if you choose A and you don't tell them anything, you run into them asking you questions later and being ill-equipped to defend themselves, leaving them able to fall for indoctrination from their other friends and peers. B, clearly this isn't something you would teach someone that's below 10 years old, but by the time that they are somewhere between 10 and 13, they should be able to understand what a system of ideas that are collectively make up a idea or belief system means. So, effectively, understanding that belief systems exist and that many ideas spread through people sharing spread through people sharing with others. People don't have ideas. Ideas have people. It is difficult for people to create an entirely new structure. Most ideas we have are reflections of others' culture and surroundings. The only way to defend against a bad idea is with better ideas and being aware of the failed ones so as not to repeat them. So I'm going to end this video with saying that I would like to know whether or not what your opinion, or I'd like to hear what your opinion is in the comment section. Would you encourage, especially in this day and age, at a certain age, even if you're not, whether you're an atheist or whether you're or not, because I mean you could be, even if you're a Christian in the audience, maybe you'd want your children to be aware of other religions. When I was a Christian, I was not aware of other religions, other than the vague sense of they exist and they're all false. It was very vague and it didn't have any meaning to me. So I was still defenseless against if, let's say, someone who believed in Allah was making an argument. I'm not familiar with that belief system, so I would not be able to defend against their ideology. My point still stands. No matter what belief system or non-belief system you have, would you want your children to be equipped to defend themselves against other people who may try to indoctrinate them? Or would you want them to just go in blind and let them come to you with questions later and hope that you can repair and make the damage up? So, I'd like to hear your thoughts.